Those things are neat though, because they allow you to take classes, lectures, and so forth.
Right. The problem is,
instead of taking notes like crazy.
the problem is you end up taking notes anyway, because you don't want to listen to the whole thing.
Yeah.
You just usually want to listen to a small part. And I just have to take a few, jot down some of the numbers on the tape recorder so that I know exactly what part is being said at what area of the tape, so that people who go to the library and who want to do research material on what it was like to work in Newton Lower Falls or to live in Newton Lower Falls between roughly the years 1920 and 1950, although other time periods could be done also. And what the community was like, that sort of thing. But for me, I think one of the most interesting parts is what the schools were like. I was reading about the history of the school that you have here. It's called the Hamilton School?
Hamilton. Yeah, the Hamilton School.
And one of my questions was, how long have they had this sort of innovative approach? Because it seems like this is a very innovative school.
Right, it was. And of course it was built, see, I think it's 27, it says right on the front of it on the side.
Right.
The main entrance there, 27. And then we always had double classes because it was, you know, a fairly small area here.
Yeah.
And the classes weren't very large. In other words, there wouldn't be enough, like third graders, you know, to have a complete third grade classroom the way we've had it today.
Right.
It would be 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6 with one principal. And she ran the school herself. She was no assistant, assistant principal. There might have been a head teacher named or something like that, but she did all it herself.
So they've always had a problem keeping the attendance high up there?
Yes, pretty much, although a few years back the classes were quite full, and in fact that's when they added on. You see the addition on this side that faces the playground, they put an entire new wing on.
Right.
And then, of course, the population went down, and then they decided to close the school, and then the children now go to Williams, some go to Williams, and some go to Angel and Margaret.
Oh, so they have closed the school?
Yeah, it's now a housing for the elderly. It's called Hamilton House.
When did that change?
We fought it. We tried to take them to court and all, but we didn't have the, the clout, I'd say, to really, but we did, hold it up as long as we could, and we got them to keep a part of it. The new wing is like a community school project, and we also kept the gym on the far end. If you went around the block, you would see the gym, and we were able to have them keep that for community use.
Yeah, because when I was reading the newspapers, they said that one of the things they really missed about if they took the school away would be the community function.
Right, because it was a close-knit little community. Everybody cared, and we'd all get together, to fight different things. But we thought about that maybe instead of like the school, they wanted the land and the playground because of the closeness to 128, Route 9, high-tech just down 128 here. But the playground, my parents told me years ago, they collected the games like they're on a Saturday or a Friday afternoon. Buses come from all over the place for, field hockey and all sorts of games, baseball in the spring. It's quite active. Of course, it's great to see it used rather than having the school boarded up or windows broken.
Right.
It's better to have turned into a housing for the elderly. And the handicapped. There are a couple of handicapped people in there too. It's nice, but it's kind of sad for people that, we've been here. And the children used to come home to lunch. They'd come home, they'd get out, they have an hour and a half, they'd come home at 12 o'clock, and then they'd be back at 1:30. They'd come home for lunch. Fool around and go back to school.
And you remember the school that was before it?
Yes, I went to the old Hamilton School, and that was up on the top of that hill that I mentioned, up and back. It's pretty much gone now because of they took out that mound. The curve used to be quite sharp. They took that out pretty much.
What street is this?
It would face on Washington Street. To get to it, you had to go up Hamilton Hill. It was on Hamilton Street, Waverly Place, up and back. If you have some old pictures of old books on Newton, you'll see pictures of it. My dad went to it and all his family. And then I went to it for kindergarten. And then they tore it down. And then, see, the new school was built down here. So we all went there. And my children have gone there too.
Okay, so you went first grade in the new school?
Yeah, first grade in the new school. And I can't remember, I think that was a double class. I think it was first and second. I think that was double. First and second, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. And then they had a kindergarten. The kindergarten was on this wing that is out. It kind of goes with a nice curve on the side.
Well, what happened to the building after the old Hamilton School? What happened to it afterwards?
It was just torn down. All the houses were torn down there, and see, they had to get ready for those new buildings that went in there on the corner. It's a great big cement office building where the lights are, and all in back there.
You mean the Honeywell area?
Yeah. Or over this side, where the lights are. It'll be on your right.
Right.
Before you
Sort of
come to
on
that
hill.
new village, what do they call it there? Housing for the elderly. That's
Right.
called Falls, something Falls, I forget, down there. It's all like cream-colored buildings. You
I know what
went
you're
by
talking about, yes.
Yeah. Of course, the whole village has been shot because way back they took all the fill, for Back Bay from this area.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, for the pit. All our land way up and back between, where the Woodland Golf Course is.
Yeah, it's just there.
Between there and here, there was a good size, what we used to call the pit. And it was a great place to play. And, we used to go up there. And,
That was what was left.
What was left, yeah. They had scooped out all this land. They left like a big rim, and the sides were quite steep. And in the wintertime, we would slide down it on boxes, cardboard boxes and things like that.
What happened to it? What's happened to it now?
Well, now, see, then Route 128 came in, and then that was all kind of scooped out and the whole land leveled, and there were some houses put there. But then some of the houses were lost too for 128, especially down our area here. We lost about six houses. So bit by bit, the little villages,
Being torn apart?
By all these, highways, construction, land grabbers, developers, so to speak. And it's really brought a lot of changes.
And what What moved into the building, the old Hamilton building that used the drugstore?
No, that was down across the street. That was a mill building. Where Gregorian is now, that was a mill building belonging to one of the Creole mills. See, this was essentially a mill town. There was a great big red mill down there as you crossed the river accordingly, and the paper mills came in first, I guess, and the rice paper company, they owned a mill, the Curtis family owned mills, and of course all the people coming over, like from Ireland, my ancestors, they would come and they worked in the mills.
So you actually know when your ancestors came over?
Yes, yeah. My grandfather was only, let's see, 3 or 4 months old. He was carried by his mother, and they came to Boston and came out and settled here. And
in what year would you say?
oh, let's see, what year? Gosh, I'd have to.
You know what part of Ireland he came?
Yes, he came from Cork.
Cork.
Yeah, because my brother has gone over to Ireland, and well, we knew that he came from Cork anyway over the years, but Jack tried to trace back, but he didn't have very much luck in locating other relatives in Cork.
What was his name?
Corcoran.
Okay.
He was Daniel Corcoran. He was the first one, and when he came, eventually bought, like Moulton Street runs up, it connects from Grove Street, where you came up right over and down to 128, like. And when he came, he bought like one side of the hill for his, because at that time land was dirt cheap.
So they weren't extremely poor.
No, he seemed to have, by just, saving and, taking care, watching.
So he came over with money, though. I mean,
Pardon?
he came over with money. He didn't buy it after he arrived.
No, he had some, I guess, when he came.
And then did your grandfather's family work in the mills?
No. Dad became a fireman. Dad was a fireman. And Uncle Dan was a wool salesman. And Uncle Henry, he's the uncle who just died, he worked for the Registry of Motor Vehicles. And Richard was in banking. And Aunt Molly married and raised a family and worked in some of the stores in Wellesley.
Oh, so none of them worked in the mills?
No, because they realized, I guess, the importance of, education, and they stayed in school and graduated. All of them graduated from Newton High School, and Dan, I guess, went on a couple of years somewhere. No, the mills, I think, by that time were rather, starting to, slow down. The paper mills were dying out, and the mills were torn down shortly after that, except for the old stone buildings that had lasted, and down and back.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a very well-constructed building.
Oh, yes, that will last for centuries, I think.
Yeah. It's only lasted one.
Yeah, really.
Oh, that's interesting. That none of your family worked in the mills, even though they.
No, they didn't. Even when they were, when they were younger. Yeah. So.
Would you say that most of the people who moved in here in the same period as your parents were Irish?
I think so. There were quite a few Irish, and then a little bit later, there were quite a few Polish people. We have had a lot of Polish people in the area, and Yeah, the big one there on the corner, there was a big gray one. It was really nice, old, like colonial, and that was called, my dad always referred to that as Kate's Hotel. And in the early days, people coming by would stop there, and growing up I can remember the barn from that property there. We used to on Halloween have great fun, going in the old barn and so forth.
Oh, was there actually a hotel there?
Yes, it was. It was called Kate's Hotel. It was on the corner, and it was a big gray thing. It went like this, and then it turned on Mulberry Street like that.
So the L-shaped sort of.
Yeah, yeah. And but after it stopped being Kate's Hotel, I don't know when that would be. Then it was divided into family, units, and some of the Polish people lived there. Yeah.
What would you say the division would be? Would it be 50-50 between Irish and Polish, or with a large contingent?
Well, there were other people, others here too. You might call them, I suppose, like old Yankees or whatever.
Do you have like a lot of Irish? Italians from like Northampton?
We have a few, but not that many. They sort of stayed, like, it's funny, in Newton, like, you have all these, you have 13 little villages,
right.
And like in Nanton you have all your Irish people, and in Newton Center there are a lot of like your Jewish people up there, and Oak Hill, mainly that, and then here, and in Auburndale, more, I think, of the Irish, or a mix.
Is that still true now?
I think it is pretty true now. It's pretty much. And it's a funny thing about Lower Falls, we have a lot of people, young people that have grew up here, and then they've bought houses here, and they've come back, and like their sons and daughters are living here in this area. So it makes it very, very interesting. Like so-and-so where they lived, who their parents were, the grandparents, and so forth. So it really makes it nice.
So Lower Falls really hasn't been hit by droves of people leaving.
No, although some have left just lately because of the high, high taxes in Newton. Some of the older people, and some of the people too that have been in their homes a while, taking advantage of the high prices of real estate. We always have real estate people sending us notices, would you like to sell your house? Contact me if you're interested, I think it's because we're so close to 128 and
But you
Boston.
don't feel
We can
it.
get to Boston in a few minutes.
So even without the school, it's still a very desirable area.
Right. And we have a lot of professional people now coming in. Like we have doctors. We have one across the street. We have one next door here. Down here, Dr. What's his name? Southmead, who does all the injuries for the Bruins and the Red Sox. He lives down, just a short way. And there are a couple. There's another one at the head of the street. I suppose because it's convenient to get into Boston.
One thing that's interesting to me is, what was your school experience like when you were in school, in the New Hamilton School? Because it was a very innovative setup, system, combining grades.
Right, right. Newton has always been innovative and trying to, do things ahead of everyone else. And of course they have had an excellent school system for a long time. My teachers, I can still remember them. The first grade teacher was quite elderly, but she was very good, really nice. And at that time, going into first grade, I had scarlet fever, and I had missed, I think I had stay off my feet for about 6 months. do the work going into second grade, but it would be very hard for me. She wanted to keep me back in first grade. But my mother said, no, she'll go ahead. So I went ahead. But I can't remember having any trouble until I got to maybe fifth grade, and I hated the math and had trouble with math. I can still think about that. But it was really a good learning experience, because even though we had double grades, the classes were still small. I think there probably would be only maybe 15, maybe less than 15 in one grade, maybe 12, and then in the other maybe 10. So it would be still a fairly small classroom.
So the classroom would be like 25?
Right, about, or under. Some of them classes, I think some of those classes were under 25. And there would be two or three rows here. This was like the third grade, and then over here the fourth grade. The only thing that was distracting, you would have your work to do, and then you'd be inclined to listen to someone you knew in the fourth grade, reciting or reading and doing their work. And I think that was,
so the teacher
sort of a disadvantage.
So you said the teacher sort of went from one side of the classroom to another.
To the other.
Oh, I just assumed that they were teaching everybody at the same time.
No, it was, I can remember it was divided. And, I mean, like the roles, like this was like the fourth grade here, third grade here, this was the fourth grade. Of course, we would get together for lunch and recess, things like that. But the teaching and so forth would be, unless, of course, she might have had some third graders that were capable of doing fourth grade, like reading.
Right.
She might have put them into her group. I can't remember that.
Do you know if that was what they did at the old Hamilton school?
I don't know whether they had double classrooms there or not. I would guess that they might. It's too bad that I don't have anyone to ask about that now. There is a woman on Grove Street, Alice Calden. She's now 85, so she must have gone to the old Hamilton. I could find that out and see. I would imagine they would, because it was still, a fairly small area, and they might not have, enough to have the single grade, or the money to hire two teachers. One teacher would get both subjects.
What do you remember especially about the Hamilton school?
It was a good school. It was well run. It was, as I say, we had a close-knit group, and you really got to know everyone. You knew all your teachers, and they knew you. They knew your family. There was quite a, like parents would visit the school, the teacher would visit the home.
Really?
And, be interested in you. She knew who you were. She knew maybe your cousins or someone related to you. And certainly, even the children, when my children went to the Hamilton, they said, some of them said, well, I knew your family, knew your mother, knew your father, that kind of thing. So it was like a continuing.
Did most of the teachers live in North Boston?
Some of them in the early years lived close by. One teacher came from Natick. I remember Miss Drake. She drove a big, high, old-fashioned car, and she would drive down, short distance from Natick. But the principal, when I left, the principal there was Miss Smith, and I think she came from Belmont. So they weren't that far away. They didn't actually live here in the area.
Do you think, was that because this was an expensive area, would you say?
No, at that time, I wouldn't say that it was. You know, probably they probably couldn't, you know, find it, like they were all like single family residences, and there wouldn't be anyone like renting out rooms or things like that where they might, you know, they might stay.
So most of them would be single.
Yes, they were. Like there was Miss Drake, Miss Smith was the principal. There was Miss Early. They were all, you know, they weren't married.
So they were all young and just waiting to get married?
No, they were really they were older. Like Miss Drake, she must have been in her 60s. She was quite had snow white hair. Miss Smith, the principal, she would be younger. We didn't have any men teachers. They were all women. Well, one time there was before Miss Smith, Mr. Layton was the principal. He was the man, but all the others were
That's
women
interesting.
teachers.
So they didn't go off and get themselves married, at least as far as you can.
No, as far as I know, they didn't.
And did they have much extracurricular activities going on?
No, they did like the art. I think there was a gym, a phys ed teacher, as we used to call them those days, phys ed. But they did their own, pretty much their own art lesson. There was a music teacher though that came in, Miss Sanderson, I remember, and you know, for singing and basic musical instruction. But I think the teacher, it wasn't the way we had it today. You have the art teachers, you have your video, all the specialists coming into the school. They didn't have too much of that.
So what did you do after you graduated from the Hamilton School?
After Hamilton, I went to parochial school down in West Newton, St. Bernard's. It's now the Little People's School.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I know what that
used to
is.
be St. Bernard's, yeah. It's now Little People's, right next to St. Bernard's Church there in
Right.
West Newton.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, not too far from that place.
No, yeah. In fact, I've often thought I'd go back and visit and see how it looked, you know, after being there, whether they've made any changes, and I imagine they have made a lot of changes in it.
So was that sort of like a middle school, or high school?
No, that had grade 1 through 12 there. I came in the, I went to the 6th year, I came in the 7th grade, so I was there from the 7th, and then graduated from there in 39. And then I went on to Emmanuel, and majored in English and Spanish, and took some education courses along the way. So, I didn't think I would want to be a teacher, but as it turned out, that's what I did.
So you must have had enough education courses to get a degree.
I did, yeah, I did. And then I went to, I had my bachelor's from Emmanuel, and then my master's from BC, and I had some courses too at Regis. So I had my master's in about 15 hours beyond.
Really? Only 15?
Yeah,
Lucked
a
out.
master's plus 15. Yeah, I should have gone and got the advanced graduate certificate, but by the time you go through it, you say, oh, this is it, no more.
So where did you start teaching in this area?
No, I started in, I had my own nursery school here. After my husband died, I had my own nursery school downstairs, and I had that for 12 years. And then when my youngest boy went to Warren Junior I felt I should, put something back into special ed, so I went into special ed in Waltham, and I was there 18 years, special ed.
But when you left Emmanuel, did you come here and start kindergarten right away?
No, I didn't. No, there's a gap there. After I left Emmanuel, I went to work. That was in 43. I graduated in 43. And I went to Johnson O'Connor. That's aptitude testing on Beacon Street. He's the fellow who invented the Wiggly block. If you've ever had any psychological stuff, you'll come across the Wiggly block. And I was there from, 43 to 45 in the Boston office, and then I worked in New York for a while for him. And then my fiance was coming back from overseas when the war ended in 45, so I said I've got to get back to Boston. So I came back here in 45 and then worked for a while in the Malden TV and Health as rehabilitation counselor, and also in Newton as rehabilitation counselor. That meant planning educational programs for people either in the sanatoria or just coming out. And I did that until I was married in 48. And then I started the nursery school. My husband died in 52. I started the nursery school in 52.
Now, I thought your husband came back from the war.
Yeah, in
45, didn't he?
Yeah, in 45.
But you were fiancé. He wasn't engaged
No,
to
he
you at
was,
that time.
he was my fiancé then, and we didn't get married until, by the time we got out of the service, we didn't get married until June of 48. Yeah, we were engaged a while, broke off a while, and then got together again. So,
Tuberculosis. There's not too much tuberculosis now.
no, thanks to the new vaccines and all, it's just died out. It was kind of a risky job in a way, because at that time, going into the sanatoria around, I was at Middlesex County San, and sometimes we'd have to go to Lakeville, where they had the TB of the bone people. But most of my work was out of Middlesex County San, and then working for people who were discharged from there into the different, I'd have to go into their homes and see them. I did some tutoring too with some of the younger people, but
But only people who were basically school age.
yeah, they were fairly young, a couple, and then too some career counseling, like young fellows trying to get back, into the
Right.
picking up their jobs again, or if they needed extra studying or help, we'd arrange for that. It was very interesting work, and I enjoyed traveling around, but after I decided I had it, we got married in 48. So that was only a couple of years. So that accounted for the gap, you said, before I started here.
How many people were doing your type of work?
What, rehabilitation counseling?
So,
Quite a few. We were under the Mass TB and Health Association, and see, all the branches came out, like the Newton branch. Malden had its own TB office, and Newton had it, Arlington had one, and all these different. And a lot of the young people were going into that sort of thing.
why was there a great interest in it?
There was quite a bit of interest at that time, and then of course these people were, every year. Now I think it's every 3 years. I think they've relaxed a bit on that. But they do still test. There are still some cases around, especially the Chinese, and then to the new Cambodian people coming in sometimes.
But why didn't you work in the Newton branch? You worked in the Malden branch.
Well, I worked out of Newton too.
Oh.
I worked out of Newton too, but not as long. I forget. I think I was 2 years in Malden and only a year in Newton. Yeah. So, and it was handy because it was just down. Their office was right down in West Newton Square, so it was an easy commute.
So where were you living at this time?
I was living in my family home up on Moulton Street.
Now, how long was that house in the family?
Oh, let me see. Well, see, grandfather, as I said, when he came and got his money, he bought one house. He bought, like Moulton Street was a hill. It used to run up quite a high hill in the early days, and it would go up like to the edge of that big pit that I spoke about.
And was Malden Hill actually?
It was quite a hill, yeah, it was quite a hill. We used to coast down it in the winter from the top of the hill. We'd go down, right down almost to Washington Street if the snow was right. But grandfather built the house. He bought one side of all Moulton Street, and then his other friend, the Coonies, other Irish people, bought the other side. So when the sons married, grandfather gave each son, a plot of land, and then they would build on it. Henry, the uncle, has just died. He had the first plot next to the homestead, and then my dad had the next one, and then there was another lot in between that has since been built on, but it was in the family. And then the Coonies did the same thing on the other side. They were sort of like rivals.
Well, were they rivals or were they friends?
What one did, the other did, that kind of thing,
Was it friendly competition? Or?
Yes, yeah, friendly competition, yeah. Not like the Hatfields and the McCoys.
Right. So they primarily live there now?
Well, when my grandfather, the last member, died, my brother has bought 2 of the houses, either Corcoran too, to keep it in the family. And now with the Uncle Henry dying, we're wondering whether Jack will buy that house too, and then he'll have the whole hill again, whole half of the hill.
Oh, that's interesting. And then you moved after you got married. You moved straight into this house.
I moved here. We built this ourselves. Yeah. We used to I used to cut across this lot to go down to the river. The river runs down right over the golf course there, yeah. So we used to cut across here to go swimming in the summer and to go skating. We used to have great times skating on the river when it was
That's the Charles River? Or?
The Charles, yeah.
So it wasn't polluted by anything?
Oh, no. In the 20s and 30s growing up, the winters were much colder then. We used to skate from here, from the Concord Bridge, put on our skates and skate all the way to Waltham, go to the theater, see the movie, and then skate back.
How far is that?
Oh, that's a good long trip. That would be, it must be about 8 or 9 miles, I think. And I can remember going under the bridges, like your bridge up here. The ice, under the bridge would quite freeze, so the ice would be, you'd be going over and it'd be wavering like this, but we would do it.
About too many people fell in?
No. It was really the ice would be quite thick. Quite thick when we did that. Yeah. We haven't had winters like that for a long time.
So, who did you buy this land from?
This land was bought by a Mrs. Doxey, who owned, see, this land originally was part, you heard me speak of the Creole Mills downtown where Gregorian is. Well, Mr. Creole built a big red house over here, and all this was a part of what they call the Creole Estates. And then, when he died, somehow or other, Miss Doxey came in with money, and she bought all the land all around here, from the railroad tracks all the way through, all the way over to Grove Street. She owned quite a sizable tract of land. And then bit by bit, she sold off, you know, little, our house lots are really small. In fact, they were very tiny. Our house is built on a double lot because the city insisted that we had to buy 2 lots. She couldn't sell the 1 lot because it was really, you know, it would be like shantytown if she did that. So we had to, our lots are double.
Who was this Miss?
She was a builder or a speculator. She built like the house at the corner and several down here. She put up several houses, you know, as like model houses, and they were really like little tiny houses, no garages, just a basic little, like your little Cape Cod, but just really, you know, slapped together. And I know when we bought our land, and she said, well, I'll have to approve of your house and your plan. And this is a Barry Wills house.
Oh, it is?
It is, yeah. Really? And so we were laughing that she's going to approve our house and our plan when, you know, it's at Royal Barry Wills.
Yeah, I was living in one in Newton.
Oh, were you?
Right,
yeah.
I lived in Newton Highlands.
Oh, yeah. They're really very, they're different, like, and follow the old colonial, you know, the latches and all.
Yeah, you have the same,
yeah. The duplicate of this is, there's one in in Lexington. As you go down, just before I think you come to Howard Johnson's, you'll see one like it if you look over on the right. And I've often thought I'd like to go over and ring their doorbell and say, do you mind if I come in and see what your house is like inside? Of course, we added on, we raised the roof, made a dormer on the back when the children were, we needed the space to finish, you know, the upstairs. So it isn't really, you know, we violated the rule there, I suppose, by putting on the dormer.
Oh, that's interesting. Where did this person live?
I think she lives somewhere in Newton. I'm not sure where she lived, but
This is a speculation to it.
yeah. And she sold all the lots bit by bit, and the house at the corner, several here, and then she has since died. The only house that was here in this road when this used to be like a country lane, and then the big house, the brown house that is on the other side of this one was there, but it was a lot smaller. They added on to that, made it bigger, much larger. And then the little white house that's out, if you go around this way, it's a little white house on the corner near the bridge. That used to be like the caretaker's house of the estate. Yeah. It was known, if you look up on a map or an old map, you'd see it says Creole Estates. Yeah. So then Miss Doxey, I guess, but she's the only one I can think of. For their profession? some of them were salespeople, some of them were fire, police. I can remember, like in the Depression, a lot of people, were really in bad, in dire financial straits. But because my dad was a fireman, he always had the paycheck coming in, and we never really, really heard it. The way some people, lost their jobs, and they were really, hard up.
Did your father take a pay cut?
I can't remember that he did. And he was always very ambitious. Like, he worked up, he was, lieutenant, and then he was captain, and then he was assistant chief, and then deputy chief, and then before long he was chief. But that meant a lot of studying, a lot of hard work. And he was always interested in fire. In fact, my grandfather was a call fireman at the fire station was downtown there on Grove Street. They've since turned it into a double apartment. It was the library. First it was the fire station, then it was the library. Now there are 2 apartments in there. And they have kept the old bell tower. In fact, the fellow in the front part, his bedroom, he can look right up into the old bell tower. And now and then he rings it just for fun. The bell is
still there.
Still there and still in working order. Yeah.
So the Depression was not a very favorite time for most of the people around here.
No. And in those days, like, we had to make our own fun. Like playing, different games. No one had. No one had a car. We didn't have cars. You had bicycles. Or you walked wherever you were going to go. If you were going, many times we'd walk to the movies up there at the community playhouse.
There was a movie theater at that time.
There, yeah.
Going there tonight, yeah.
Yeah, right. That's been there quite a while.
They also have plays there?
No, there was a place this is going back when I was like in the 20s, 20 to 30s. There was a place there, where the wine store is, the big red, and the post office.
Right.
That was called Early's Hall, and there was way over to the left, there was a set of stairs, and then the whole top floor was like a big auditorium, and we'd go there for, they'd have like puppet shows and entertainment and old-fashioned movies, the kind of, like the Keystone Cops and things like that.
How often was that?
That was about, I think, once a week or every other week.
And was that put on by people who were there constantly, or traveling people?
I think maybe traveling people would come in and do it. There would be a notice posted and everyone would get all excited. I think for 10 cents or 5 cents you could go to Early's Hall and, see a show.
How long would the performances last?
Well, it would be like Saturday afternoon, I think we'd go. A couple of hours in the afternoon. Yeah. But that's going.
For the movies, you would go to the Wells Community Playhouse.
Yeah. And some of the boys would have paper routes, and then for, doing the paper, they would get passes, and then several passes, and then in our group, some of us would get in on the passes to the community playhouse.
So did many people go into Boston?
Yes, they would, but you'd have to go by bus, or in the early days there was a trolley line that ran all the way and would connect with New Corner. You'd have to go there and connect.
Called the Ping Pong Express or something?
Well, no, the ping pong was the train that used to run right in the back of our house. And as a matter of fact, my husband used to take it. They stopped at, Phil died in 52. That must have stopped about 50, 51. Because he used to go go right out here, and then it was a spur track, and it went out and dropped you off until you get the main line train. Yeah, we call that the ping pong.
What this other one was not. This is horse-drawn.
Yeah, or the old electric cars. They were electric cars, and they'd run all along Washington Street. But to get back to the ping pong, Otto Preminger, someone probably told you, filmed the section of the Cardinal down here because he wanted to see if it was really rural, and they came in and he filmed it. You can see the train. He had a train coming around the bend and people in costumes and so forth. So that was fun. But that was in the 70s.
Oh, they actually have the tracks still up there?
Bit by bit they have disappeared because people have, first of all, they've been taking the wooden, what do you call it, the tiles for
garden patios.
For garden things, yeah. In fact, some of the people, we were always told we could buy this land back to the golf course land. And some of the people have already started to move back and to, extend their gardens back.
But there's still government land up there.
Yeah, and it's tied up. The whole thing is tied up in court cases, and I think the Mellon family have bought a lot of the, what is this, New Haven and Hartford, or the line, and it's tied up in the courts, and they said it will be years before that's settled, before we would be able to buy from our lot line to the golf course line. But every time we get nervous when we hear that the MTA is thinking of extending the line down into Wellesley, because we think that's the only way they'll do it, come down this way.
Are they still thinking about that?
We haven't heard anything about it for a long time. Our next big thing is the MTA is going to put in all kinds of buildings over here in back of their Riverside branch.
Right.
Office buildings and, oh, God knows what. The Auburndale people are all up in arms because it will concern them too and put more traffic on our roads here, and it's going to be a mess. But that's another thing we have to fight against.
That sounds like you have a lot of fighting. But what was the early trolley? That's the one that went up and down Washington.
Yeah, it would come down. I guess it would come down from Natick or even up beyond and run all the way down Washington Street.
Right through Brighton.
Yeah. It would connect with, then there would be, it would go down as far as Newton Corner, I think, and then there was another line that would come from Watertown and go, follow the old MTA line, still follow the same
right,
thing.
in Watertown Square.
Yeah, right.
How long would it sounds like it would take you a long time to get to
Oh, yeah. I can just barely remember the old car going through. That's going way back, though. Yeah.
How much would it, do you know how much it would cost?
Oh, I don't think it costs very much. I don't know. You'd have to do some research on that to find out how much that would cost. I can't remember.
So how long would it take you when you could first remember going into Boston? How long would it take you to go in?
It would take a while. It would take a good hour or more. Yeah.
Well, it takes almost that now.
Well, if you get a good connection from Riverside, you can do it sometimes 20 minutes, sometimes 30, but usually it's 45 because you slow down in the tunnel and there's all kinds of problems. But
so not too many people actually went into town. They stayed around here.
no, not too many. They would stay around, I think, and maybe one day a week they would go. In the early days, we used to go over a lot to the Riverside Recreation. There was a complex So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
So it sounds like you had more than enough things to do around here.
We did. We sort of made, as I said, made our own fun, doing different things. We'd be building, huts in the woods and that kind of thing.
Was there a lot of free land around here?
Open space, you mean?
Right.
Yeah, there was like in the pit area, and of course we always have the golf course here.
Right.
But lately they haven't. There are more no trespassing signs. But even my children would, when they were older, would go down to the river, like fishing or putting willows in the spring, or catching frogs and things like that. So it was pretty wide open before 128 started, moving in, before all the other houses were built. And quite a few houses around here have been moved. Some of them were moved from Belmore Park down here. There are two over on Grove Street there that have been moved. And as I said, we lost some over there on DeForest Road. We lost all, about 5 houses there.
To the redevelopment.
Yeah.
Also, was there many farms and things of that sort that used a lot of land, or was it mostly residential?
I think that was pretty much residential, except the land up in back of Moulton Street, where part of the hill went up. But there weren't any farms that I can remember. It was just open fields, like. So that I can't remember any farms here around in this area, or even my dad speaking about any farms. I can't remember.
Well, I know there were some, but I wasn't exactly sure
Yeah.
from what I read when it was that they sort of started going over to residential area.
Yeah.
During the...
That would be going way back, I think. Yeah.
Would you say most of the people who were living in this neighborhood did work in the mill? I know we talked about your family not working in the mill.
Well, I think in the early days they did. I mean, going back like to my grandfather's time.
Right.
And then, like as I said, the Irish people did, and then the Polish people would come in. They worked in the mills because there weren't any other. There were paper mills, mostly paper mills, and then there was an old, like a woolen mill. That was Accordingly, big red one, and that almost crossed the river. I can remember that. And then there were mill buildings there. And then after that they turned into making waste, shoddy, waste, the big bales going in and out all the time. And a lot of the people around, the Polish people, worked in the mills. But many of them were, like as I said, firemen, registry. Uncle Henry was the registry, carpenters, and shopkeepers who ran stores downtown. I can't remember that any of them were like professional people. I'm trying to think if we had any lawyers.
So this sounds like more like a working class, middle class type.
Yeah, I'd say so overall. But now it's changed. There are more like professional people,
Right.
lawyers, doctors, teachers, professors. Now, at this time.
Was Wolseley roughly the same time? I mean, the same
opposite of the theater when we would go up, the theater. Oh, you come from Laurel Falls, go back where you came from, that
Really?
kind of thing. Even with
What year
kids.
was this?
Well, this would be like when I was, let's see, about 30, 35, 36, even maybe before that. There was always like a rivalry between them. And in fact, there is between the different villages here, even like in Auburndale. Oh, you're from Laurel Falls, I think people sort of look down in a way on Laurel Falls because it was like both Laurel Falls and Upper Falls because they were like sort of like mill towns.
Right.
And they were sort of, oh, you're from Laurel Falls.
Did your children also get that?
No, not as much, I don't think. Or if they did, they never said anything about it. We always had like little league teams going off different places. And, you'd run into it too in skating, Oh, you can't come over here, especially on the Auburndale pond. Why don't you go back to your own place? That kind of thing. Yeah.
So Wellesley was a little bit more affluent, but also
I think
would say
so.
Auburndale would be.
No, Auburndale was, I think, pretty much about the same as we were, I think. Maybe a little bit, maybe a little bit above, in between, like, in between, like, Laurel Falls and Wellesley, you might have, like, Auburndale. Yeah.
Is that maybe one of the reasons you didn't go to the public high schools?
No, I was the only one. I think around here, one of the few to go to parochial school. I thought because my parents wanted me to have a parochial school education. I don't know. But the others around all went to Newton High. A few went to Sacred Heart over in Newton Center.
Right by the law school.
Yeah. But most of them did go to the public schools. Yeah.
Did your brothers? You had a brother, right?
Yeah, two brothers.
Two brothers.
Yeah, they went to Newton High, both brothers. And my sister went to Newton High. I was the only one. I don't know, maybe my mother thought I would be a nun or something. I don't know. I don't know. But I enjoyed it.
Well, during the 30s it was quite depressed, but during the 40s it picked up, I imagine, quite rapidly.
Yes. Although we were hit by, like the war and the after effects of the war. And prices were high then, for building. Not as high as they are now, of course, but I can remember our builder saying, when we built this in 48, he was saying, oh, it's too big, you can't, it's going to be too expensive, you've got to cut down, you have to make the living room smaller, you've got to do this and that. But we held our ground and said, no, this is what we want, and you're going to build it, so we did.
Interesting that.
Because I guess there was a recession on then, and I didn't realize it until years later. There was a recession on in 48.
Right.
Prices were high, and I didn't realize it then when we were, going through all this. Yeah.
So what was it like here during the war? Actually, you weren't here during the war. You were in New York City for some of that time.
Well, I was here for some of it, and then I was in New York.
And you were in college, I imagine?
And I was in college, yeah, right. Well, of course, all the fellows went off to war with the different branches of the service, and some of the older people, in fact, this Miss Calvin I speak of down there on Grove Street is now 85. She put on a helmet and went into a defense factory and was doing riveting, you know, on the
Rosie the
Riveter.
Right.
And we laughed about it, and we said, oh gosh, if my brother Jack was in the Air Force, 8th Air Force, and we said, oh gosh, if Jack's got to depend on Alice Calden, you know, putting the rivets in the plane, you know, will he ever make it back? But he did. Yeah, we laughed about that. And a lot of them did have, I guess, wartime jobs because the Watertown Arsenal was booming, and they were working there.
Which is now a mall.
That's now a mall, yeah.
I would imagine a lot of the women in the community were working in
Yes, if they weren't doing, they were rolling, you know, bandages, or they were knitting, or, you know, doing things.
collecting cans.
Red Cross work, or canteens. In fact, we ourselves, we were working in, you know, USO canteens. I did that for a while.
Where?
In Boston, in the Salvation Army canteen. A group of us went in. We were recruited by a friend of my mother's, and we went in, and it was fun.
This is while you were at Emmanuel.
Yeah, it was fun. You know,
What type of people? Was it mostly soldiers?
a lot of them were like British sailors coming in off the, you know, the ships. Most of them were, as I look back, there were a few, you know, some of our boys too, but there were a lot of them that were British sailors. Because I can remember, you know, the different uniforms, the light blue and the different hats and so forth. But it was fun. We were just, we weren't doing any dancing or anything like that. It was canteen work. We were passing out coffee and donuts and, you know, chit-chat, that kind of thing.
Oh, that sounds really interesting.
So, one way or another, everyone, I guess, was doing their share. Collecting, you know, tin cans and flattening tin cans and that kind of stuff, and rations.
So for your family, they probably lived slightly worse during the war than during the 30s.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because it was, you know, you had to make do, like the sugar had to be stretched, and the butter, you couldn't get butter, that was unheard of. And shoes would have to, you know, last. And just when nylon stockings came in, they were taken out again to make parachutes. You know, the nylon went into the parachutes instead of stockings, but that was a small thing.
What was your mother doing? You said her friend recruited you.
Well, Mother's a World War I Army nurse, so she was into Red Cross work and organizing groups for, you know, first aid and things like that. And her friend recruited us, Mrs. Harmon, who lived where, you know, where the Pillar House restaurant is now.
Yep.
That's where she lived. And we used to go there.
But she lived in that house?
She lived in that house, yeah.
That was built in 1847.
Yeah. Well, my dad used to take piano lessons there from the Putnams, who owned it years ago. He used to go into Putnams, and they all have piano lessons and dance lessons. So that was way before, you know, when Mrs. Harmon owned. She was the last owner, I think, before Lawson bought it to turn it into the Pillar House. And it became the restaurant. Then he added on that big wing. It's always been a beautiful house. In fact, way back, it was the Curtis Mansion and belonged to the Curtis Paper Mill.
Right. I was sort of curious how that house got positioned there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have chosen that place for it.
No,
Between all those roads.
Yeah, but see, there was a big open field, and in fact, across the street, that's where my dad was born, in a small house there.
across from the Pill House.
Across from the Pillar House, yeah. There was a small house there, and that's where he was born.
So he was actually born pretty much right on Route 128.
Right, yeah, right, yeah, yeah.
And your mother, she went to Europe as an Army nurse? Or
Yes, yeah. She came from Lowell, and Dad met her on the steps of Monte Carlo. He was up for R&R, as they call it.
Right.
And she was on leave, too, and that's where they met. She was from Lowell, and he was from Newton. So he asked if he could see I guess they saw one another a bit there, and then he asked when he got back, to Massachusetts, could he look her up, and he did, and that's the rest of the story. She's still alive. She's 93. She isn't too well right now, but she's still going strong.
That's amazing.
So I always thought that's kind of interesting. World War I.
So she was there, and your father was in the Army or in Marine?
Yeah, he was in the Army, yeah.
In what position?
He was in the Battery B Field Artillery. Yeah. The old Yankee Division, as they call it. Yeah, yeah.
So he went pretty much straight from there into firefighting?
Yeah, pretty much. When he came back, he got on the, I think he was a plumber for a while. He always spoke about doing some plumbing work. I think he was a plumber for a while, and then probably studied to get into the fire department and got in shortly after that.
So he must have gone straight from high school?
Yes, he was fairly young, yeah. I have a picture of him here in his uniform, in his World War I uniform. I don't know how old he is. It says there, but there he is in his, and now my little grandson comes over and he picks it up, and I'm trying to tell him that's great-grandpa.
Wow.
That's the original frame, I guess, from World War I with all the insignia on it.
Right.
Yeah.
It has the typical symbol
For the
of victory. If you look at
for victory, yeah.
If you look at the World War I victory medal, they have that same sort of
same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was given to anybody who fought during the war.
Oh, yeah.
It's a sign of service.
Yeah.
World War II had another type.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I've always admired that, and then my Aunt Molly, when she died, it was, she had a whole box of things, so that came to me, so I was glad to get it. I've got some other big pictures, too, that I say I should have framed. Too bad. But you run out of space as a big one.
Right.
Overloaded here.
Did your father start his work in Lower Falls as a fireman?
Yes, yeah. He was up at Engine 6, up there at opposite Newton Wellesley Hospital. As you go right up there, it's now Boy Scout headquarters. That was Engine 6, and
I didn't know that.
yeah, Engine 6.
That's right on the corner of Beacon and Water.
Yeah. He was there, and
how long did it take him to climb up the ranks?
well, let me see quite a bit of time, because I think, let's see, World War I ended when? 18.
November 11th.
18. I would say he must have gone in. He was a fireman when I was born. I was born in 21. So he must have gone right in. He probably did that plumbing bit on the side. Because he must have gone right in when he came out. So I was born in 21. They were married in 1920. So he must have gone right in. Yeah. Yeah, he went up, he studied hard, and, you know, he had, you know, children one after another, so he realized he had to keep going, I guess. So, it wasn't long before, I forget when he was made lieutenant. I have some old, you know, write-ups on it, but I don't know whether that take time to find those.
Well, you should do something with those papers sometime.
I should.
You should turn them over to the Jackson Homestead or
Yeah.
over to the Nixon.
In fact, the fellow who, the engineer, he's in the front part of the old firehouse there. He wanted some old pictures, you know, of the firemen and what it was like then. So I promised that I'd look through my grandfather's things and see if we could come up with some, because I was sure that, you know, we had some in the family somewhere. But we've been so busy with one thing after another, we haven't, you know, gone through the stuff to turn it over to him. Because he wanted to blow them up like and have
put
like
them on the wall?
A mural, yeah, for it.
Oh. So you have some notes of your own?
Well, I didn't know exactly what you, you know, you wanted to talk about, so I just made some outlines so I would, you know, cover some of the interesting, that it was a small village, it was much larger then, and then I think I mentioned the fill for the back bay, going from the pit, and how we use that as a play area, both in, you know, summer, winter, and coasting, skating, and then the highlight really of the fun of the year was, of course, April 19th and the marathon coming through. You know, the marathon all the way down. That was the big event, really. And now it's getting bigger and bigger each year. Now it's fantastic now. But I can remember seeing, you know, Tarzan Brown going by and all the, what's that fellow's name from Reading? Clarence DeMar, seeing him go through. And then the incident of the dog there outside. Downtown there was quite as you round the corner, there was a block of stores, and there was a cafe, well, we called it Mary's Cafe, actually. It was a beer parlor there, where the old dog came out there and tripped one of the runners, and he was in the lead. I forget which fellow it was now, but in some of the books on the marathon, there's a picture of the dog in Mary's cafe there, and he would have won the marathon if that old black dog hadn't popped out at him.
That's been a tough one.
Yeah, he was really, you know, was really a shame. I guess I mentioned the different buildings, Kate's Hotel, fire station, and so forth, and the Creole Estate, the Pillar House, I covered that, and the ping pong we spoke of. There was another house there that was on the corner where the cemetery is, the Wiswall House, still there. That, they say, used to be for underground slaves. There was an underground railroad connected there between the church house, the parish house there, St. Mary's, and that house.
I know it went down to Beacon Hill area.
Yeah.
Has that been proven?
I think so. I think at the Jackson Homestead you'll find that, because they have the underground tunnels and everything there at the Jackson Homestead. You can go down in there. And I think they said, now where the connecting, there must have been other links somewhere here, from here to the Jackson Homestead, but where they are
now that would have been one long continuous tunnel.
I don't think so. I think it would probably be like a hiding place where they would keep them, and then they would, I suppose, under cover of darkness, go to the next place, and then they would go like from station to station. I would think, because I wouldn't think they could have a continuous tunnel going. It would be really It must have been.
It's hard to hide that.
Yeah, yeah, right. All comings and going. So, I can't think of anything else unless you have other things that
Oh, just running a little bit low on the tape.
Ask about.
I'm still a little bit curious about what type of life it was having your father be in the fire department. He must not have been around at times that people were
Yes,
expected.
because in the early years, I think they had to sleep at the station a couple of nights,
Right.
and we wouldn't see him, and then he would come in, and I think he had a funny schedule. Like he would work, like he would be work 3 days and off 2, and that kind of a routine.
Right.
So it wasn't as if he was a traveling salesman, and away for days on end, or weeks on end. We would, see him. And then, of course, when he was up at Station 6, I think he might, and of course, when he was lieutenant and moved up the line, he would have more time and, would be around more.
So he actually had more time as he went out instead of the other way around.
Yeah, right. So, and then he would be stationed too at the different stations, like in Newton Highlands, there was a station there about where the Stop and Shop was. That's since been torn down.
Right.
And then there was one in West Newton, just down from the Little People's School there, past the funeral home there, where the exchange goes now for 128. There was one there. And of course Newton Corner, the big one was at Newton Corner, before they put this one in down here at Com Ave. Yeah.
Right.
Those are the older stations. And then when he became chief, he put in several others, the Oak Hill one, and the one down there on the fringe of Nunantum. That one he put in.
In the newspaper article that quotes him, what he talked about primarily is he was talking about, I guess, neighborhood unity, and saying that he felt in the old times people really went out to help their neighbors.
Yes,
And now whenever that was, he said that.
yeah.
It wasn't exactly the case.
Yeah. And of course, in the early days, many of the men around were what they call call firemen. Like my grandfather was a call fireman,
Right.
and would be, when the bell would ring, they'd all run and help out. But now they're pretty much, in the olden days, two people did help one another, and they did do things together. And of course, during the war too, we had victory gardens. I forgot to mention that. I
Right.
forgot about that. The open land up in the hill, they would share. And Mother and Dad, I can remember, worked on that. And we had to do some too, weed pulling.
Must have been fun.
Yeah, and that all helped too. But it really was a good. But the school really was the whole center, really, of the town here in North Falls, because all the activities and meetings were held there, and the different things connected with school,
Right.
brought the whole community together. And with that gone now, we felt we've lost our sense of community, but we try to keep it up with the community school thing.
So you're pretty optimistic about it.
Well, I think now, according to the headlines in the paper, they're going to be sorry that they've closed all these schools. I think they're going to have to open them up again. And I don't know what they're going to do with the old folks, but they'll have to do something. exhausting, because now
That's what I'm betting on.
yeah, it'd be good for you.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll be a while. I'm going to be at high school level. It'll take a while, but...
Yeah. You're teaching on the high school level. History?
Right.
History and government? Yeah.
But, there seems to be in the works a population increase, which should have been predictable.
Well, I think they said in the census, the U.S. Census said in the 80s there would be a boom.
Right.
And now it's...
The kids are just starting to get kindergarten, first grade.
Yeah.
So it'll be a while.
So it'll be a while. They'll be moving up. But anyway, you'll probably go on and get your master's. Or
That's what I'm doing now.
This is your master's now?
Right.
Yeah.
Most people in my course are not master's.
They're not. Yeah. Are they discouraged because of teaching? I mean, the shortage or the inability to get jobs in teaching?
Yeah, that's the way it has been. Now changing around.
Yeah.
Because people are realizing that a great number of teachers who are presently in the schools will have to retire.
They'll have to get out. Yeah.
This is an impossible situation.
Yeah. And I think it's good. I mean, they gave us an incentive to get out, $6,000 bonus. I was thinking of getting out anyway, but that was an added enticement.
For early retirement?
Yeah, because I retired at 62, just barely 62.
As opposed to 65.
Well, we can go to 70. You can go to 70 in Waltham. You can. I don't know about Newton. But you have to have a doctor's certificate, to say, or a statement to say that you are physically able to teach. So that you could go on to 70, and some of them do go on to 70. But I think it's kind of unfair to the young teachers, to hold on. I think new people coming in bring new ideas. It's really good.
Well, there's something to be said for each side, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, my grandfather just recently retired, and he was like 78.
Really?
He had to go and take different type of jobs.
Yeah.
Some of them were part-time.
Yeah, that's good to keep going, because I think once you stop, I'm semi-retired. I teach nursery school in Wellesley, and I love it.
Where?
In Wellesley, we're in the lower floor of the Methodist Church there. You know where the new library is?
Yeah.
Brook Street.
Right. I know that
there.
place.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm semi-retired. I enjoy it. I work every day, 9 to 8:30 to 11:30.
Yeah, kindergarten's great.
Yeah, really.
I love working in elementary school.
Yeah.
Occasionally.
Yeah. Well, I think it's great to get some men teachers into the
That's what everybody tells me.
elementary school.
I don't think I could take it for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason men aren't there in big numbers.
Yeah.
But,
Well,
I certainly enjoy it.
They are demanding. And it's nice, too, to get them, like, from grades K through 3 before they get spoiled and they get stressed. Once they seem to hit 3rd and 4th grade, I don't know what happens to them, but they're different.
Go through the rebellious stage.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
So,
I know that they're having a get-together of all the people who are in this project. Each year they go from different parts of Newton.
I see. Yeah.
So last semester was Newton Highlands, and before that something else.
Yeah.
And next semester again something else.
Yeah.
And as I understand the project, you'll be making up tapes, copies of these tapes. One will be kept at Boston College. I believe one will be given to you. One will be given to the branch. Well, you don't have a branch library anymore.
Well, we do up in the community school. We have, it's just one room.
Okay, so one will be kept there.
Yeah.
One will be kept at the main center, and one at the Jackson Homestead. So they're making a a lot of
They're
tapes.
making a lot of tapes, yeah.
Right.
Gee, I hope I haven't said anything that will someone will listen to it and say, oh my gosh, what did she say that for?
No, a lot of interesting information. I try to stay away from the things that people can look up in a book.
Oh, yeah.
Or like, what did people in this area do? Something that
Yeah.
a historian who wants to find out about the history of this area can't get.
Yeah, right.
That's what I'm looking for. And I think, a lot of very good information for that. So somewhere at the end of this semester, April, I guess, there'll be a get-together at the main center, the main library in Newton Corner, and there'll be a little bit of a discussion among some of the people who did it. 11 people participated, and there'll also be a little paper which I'll make if I go through the tape, and I'll make a little listing of what's on the tape. So a person who wants to find out what were the schools like,